Hello everyone, Spider Fanboy here to bring you the first part to another new series. This is going to be What if Hinata was a part of Team 7. Here we're going to have to change up just a few things, and the main factor is just that Hinata herself is going to be, we can easily say that, wanting to be a little bit more like her idol and crush Naruto. She decides to push herself just that little bit more. We all know that, it's not exactly that she didn't really put any effort towards her training, but we can say that one day, finally deciding that she's had enough of being looked down upon, she wants to really show her mettle the same way Naruto's always trying to put forth his 100% and all of his effort into his own training. She decides that if she really wants to accomplish her dreams of changing her clan and becoming a powerful kunoichi, and one day having Naruto recognize her as the individual that she is, she decides she's going to have to put forward 110% of her effort, very much like Naruto does. So she ends up going hardcore into her training. Now, this does mean that she has to get over her pacifistic nature, and it is by no means easy, especially since she's put up to spar against her own younger sister Hanabi. But she starts putting in more effort again in all of her training, and she's just gonna end up that little bit stronger. Here, she's not looked down upon completely. There's obviously some of the elders of her clan don't exactly treat her with the amount of respect that she should be treated. Shush. A lot of elders look down on her. Neji still looks down on her, but here she's not going to be regarded as like a weakling with no potential. Her father recognizes her strengths. She's been putting forward all of her effort into improving her skill with the gentle fist, and we can easily say, by the time it comes time for graduation, and they're going to be assigned to their teams, she's got down the 32 palms, and she's making progress towards the 64 palms. Maybe she's not entirely there yet, like her older cousin Neji, but he's also been put through proper training under a Jonin sensei. So she's not quite there at 64 palms, but it's from what Hiyashi, I think actually. I think his name is Hisashi. I don't know. From what Hinata's father has seen, she's actually been putting forward training into advancing her skills with chakra control, and has she's taking other avenues to expand her abilities. She's learning. She studies in basic medical ninjutsu. So since she already has ridiculous chakra control as a Hyuga, so she actually has some basics in healing. She's studied anatomy, so she can not only strike you in your normal vital organs and your chakra points, but she's been using her Byakugan so that she could strike actual pressure points in the body itself. And she's also made use of senbon and poisons. So she already kind of had some talent with like making the ointments, the healing ointments, like the one she gave to Naruto during the preliminary Chunin exams. But here she's diversified her interest into poisons and making use of senbon, the needles that like Haku uses. So she's going to be a lot more diversified, and all of this extra training she's been adding on to herself, as well as some secret training she's been doing with the gentle fist technique, um, with some help from her father and her sister. She is at the top position as top kunoichi. Maybe as a result, and Sakura try to up their own training, but it's not going to be enough to catch up to what Hinata is at. Maybe they learn some proper genjutsu, since you know learns how to make use of genjutsu in conjunction with her mind techniques, whereas Sakura, it was always stated she had a genjutsu affinity because of her chakra control. So here she's actually going to be exploring that instead of only sticking to medical ninjutsu, and never exploring genjutsu outside of like one of the Naruto Part 1 movies. But yeah, here they actually have to. They get a little serious about their training a little early because Hinata's like their main rival, And Hinata actually gets recognized by her classmates as like the top kunoichi, the strongest girl in the class, one of the only ones who can compete with Sasuke. Like out of all the students, she's the only one who can compete with him. Um, and this actually gets Naruto to recognize her. He ends up approaching her one day. He asks a little bit about her, and over the course of their conversation, which is a lot of Hinata stuttering and blushing, but she is able to get a few words out. She ends up asking if Naruto remembers her, and this gets him confused for like all of, let's say, like a minute, and like he's constantly asking her, and this actually gets her a little down before eventually he's able to remember. Maybe just because he's younger and the incident isn't as away from his mind as it was when he was like a grown ass adult. He ends up remembering if he asks her if she was the girl that he met in the forest when those bullies tried messing with her. All those years ago when it was wintertime. I think it was like around Christmas or something. Sorry if I'm like shivering. It's a little cold. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna put on a sweater. Fuck. It's so cold. God, I hate it. Okay, hopefully this helps. But yeah, we can say that Naruto and Hinata actually begin to form a bit of a friendship with one another. Maybe over the course of the final year, just before they graduate, their final year of the academy. Um, this is when Hinata's extra training finally begins to bear fruit, and during the over the course of the final year, like by halfway through it, is when she claims her title as top kunoichi, and she holds it for the rest of the school year. And we could say like just a little bit before, maybe 1 or 2 months before, is when Naruto ends up striking up that initial conversation with Hinata. Sasuke himself he's been pushing himself he's been pushing himself in his training. It's not so much a disdain for Hinata. He actually likes that there's a proper kunoichi in the class, and beyond that, she's so dedicated, so powerful, a proper rival for himself to test himself against. And he's actually, decently impressed. He doesn't really outright say any of these things. He keeps a lot of this to himself. He's still in his introvert emo phase. But we can just say that's that little more his acknowledging of Hinata gives that little more incentive to Ino and Sakura. And beyond that, actually adds some incentive to Naruto. He actually asks Hinata if they can train. Um, which she is all for, even if she does nearly pass out. She probably does pass out the first time he asks, but here Naruto actually begins to develop a proper friendship with Hinata. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe she'll help him refine some of his chakra control. They're not going to be learning. Maybe Hinata's been able to learn like some tree walking, or if she hasn't been taught it by her family, she'd be able to learn it pretty quickly. But either way, she'll probably be helping him, improve his basic chakra control. I don't know if this is like a fanon thing that was created by like fan fiction writers and stuff, but like apparently there was a leaf sticking exercise where like you stick a leaf to your skin through chakra control. So maybe she helps him with that, and she wants to help him so that he doesn't fail, which I never really got, because that would imply that all of his other classmates failed the exams the same time that he did, unless for some reason he was able to take them earlier. I never really understood it, why he was able to fail so many times, unless he was either A, older than them, or B, got special permission, or C, they all also failed the previous exams. But whatever. Whatever. I kind of stopped letting it bother me a long time ago. Or at least I try to. But either way, Naruto is going to be improving his chakra control. Sadly, not enough to where he can make proper clones. They're going to be marginally better, but he does have a tremendous amount of chakra, and he doesn't improve it, or maybe he does. Maybe he is able to. Yeah, okay. So here he's going to be able to get down the basic clone. It's not easy, and he has to do it by he still ends up putting too much chakra, so Hinata gave him a tip that instead of trying to downsize his chakra and try to make one clone, he should instead try to make a few clones so that he's able to better distribute his chakra that he initially puts into it, which actually helps him. He's able to get them. They're decent. They're not the best, but Iruka is able to pass him. Although he does end up passing as the bottom, the dead last out of everyone who passes. Out of everyone who passes, he ends up ranking dead last. He has been improving skills like his taijutsu with Hinata and his shuriken jutsu, his ability to use and throw shuriken and kunai. He's been getting better at that with Hinata because that's kind of her specialty with her usage of senbon. Because of that, she's also better by nature with her kunai and shurikens. But he's improved. But this kind of improvement from Naruto ends up causing a ripple effect. Like Shikamaru's mom will not at all stand for Shikamaru being dead last, so she forces him to train, or at least forces Shikamaru's father to train him, so that he doesn't drop to dead last. Um, Choji wants to stick with Shikamaru, so that would probably rub off on him. Ino and Sakura are already upping their training to compete with Hinata for Sasuke's affection and for his attention. Sasuke is obviously training to compete with Hinata better, and Kiba himself has a one-sided rivalry with Naruto and Sasuke. Probably not as one-sided with Naruto here, but definitely with Sasuke. And they all have clan resources, and Sakura herself is just she's like legitimately scarily intelligent. She was able to pass the written exam for the tuning exam all on her own with the knowledge that she had. She didn't need to cheat whatsoever, and that's honestly kind of terrifying because everyone else had to cheat. Everyone else had to resort to cheating, and she was able to answer them like it was no problem. So, in terms of academics wise, it's able to keep her above. And because of this, Naruto does end up dead last. It's a bit of a stronger rookie 9, but out of the rookie 9, he does end up dead last. And we can easily say that Mizuki still decides to prey on his insecurities. They're not as pronounced here. He didn't fail, but Mizuki is still able to get into his head. Naruto is still kind of stupid. And since Naruto has one proper friend, we can easily say that Mizuki exploits this. You could say, imagine how impressed Hinata will be that you were able to pass this super extra secret exam that I'm about to give you. It would put you at the top as the top shinobi, so you'd be ranked at the top of the class, right next to your best bud Hinata. Maybe he teases him, tries to get in his head, calling her his little girlfriend, which Naruto doesn't completely understand, because he doesn't even understand what love properly is. And we can say that by now his crush is beginning to fade. His crush on Sakura is beginning to fade. Just that little bit earlier, because he has, positive attention and reinforcement from a proper female friend. But either way, Mizuki is still able to get into his head, is still able to manipulate him. And Naruto does steal the scroll of sealing. And he does end up learning the shadow clones. He's like, oh, this is going to make it so much easier for me to use clones. And because I always thought it was weird, I'm also going to be giving him the other shadow clone variants. We're going to say that with his improved chakra control and, being a study buddy with Hinata, some of her habits have rubbed off on him. I don't like that. But he's able to get the basic shadow clone down much quicker. He actually reads what it's capable of, so he knows about its memory thing. Maybe he doesn't come directly to the conclusion that he can use it for training, but he's like, that might be useful. I should tell Hinata about this. Maybe she'll be able to explain it to me better. But he does also learn the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, which he's like, all right, I gotta show this to Hinata. And he also learns the Exploding Shadow Clone. Those are the only two other variants I'm giving to him. Mainly because I think they're cool and they should have been utilized a lot more. And it definitely would have worked with Naruto's fighting style at the time, which was a lot of just using his overwhelming numbers and trying to, overwhelm his opponents with his shadow clones and stuff. But yeah, when it comes to beating down Mizuki, it's much more easy. With better chakra control, he is not only able to make more shadow clones, he is able to throw in explosive shadow clones and shuriken shadow clones as well. So he even gets into some trickery, transforming exploding shadow clones into kunai and shuriken, which he then throws multiplies using the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu and making a whole explosion of thrown weapons raining down towards Mizuki. So he's gonna be like proper near dead. Instead of just having like that busted up face, he's probably gonna be having like scorch marks and crap all across his body. Gonna have like some broken bones, some bruised, some like internal bleeding. He's gonna be properly effed up. And we could say like he made like 1,500 clones, just because his chakra control is that much better. Either way, we get to team assignments. You know, it's gonna be Sasuke, Hinata, and Naruto, and then we get our introduction to Kakashi. It's pretty cool. He gets them all to meet with him on the rooftop, and when he asks them their dreams, Sasuke's gonna be the same, Naruto's gonna be the same. Maybe he's not as brash, but then again, this is still Naruto. Um, so he's still gonna be like, I'm gonna become the next Hokage, and everyone here in the village is gonna properly respect me, like my best, like just like how Hinata does, which gets her to blush a little bit, and gets everyone's eyes on her. And when Kakashi asks her what's her dream, she says that she wants to change the ways of her clan. She wants to be recognized as a strong kunoichi, and she wants to have a family of her own one day that she can live with happily. Which definitely gets to Naruto. He's been alone his whole life, so he briefly thinks about having a family, and instinctively places Hinata as his love interest. He sees like little kids with black hair and blue eyes, or blonde hair and pale eyes, and he shakes that thought from his head. He's like, "What the hell did that come from?" And Sakura just took Hinata's place on Team 10, so she's gonna be under Kurenai, the Genjutsu mistress herself. So that's gonna be useful going forward, at least for her. She's gonna be really delving into making use of her Genjutsu. And then they're told, go on ahead and we'll meet tomorrow at like, what was it, like 10 o'clock. We'll meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and don't eat any lunch or you'll puke. And don't eat any breakfast. Sorry, don't eat any breakfast or you'll puke. And he ends up poofing away. Naruto wonders. He actually wonders out loud. Huh? Was that a shadow clone? I didn't know anyone else could do it. I thought it was supposed to be a forbidden jutsu. This actually gets Sasuke, who was just about to leave, to perk up. He's like, what? And he's like, yep. What do you think happened yesterday? They're like, I thought you just... And Sasuke just answers bluntly, I thought you just pulled another stupid prank. Which definitely gets under Naruto's skin. And he actually retorts, hey, I haven't had to do that in a while. I've been too focused on my own training. What have you been doing, duck butt? I think that's like how he insulted his hair. He used to say that it used to look like a duck's butt. And this kind of ticks off Sasuke. He's like training as well, properly. I mean, I am still stronger than you. And this definitely gets under Naruto's skin, but Hinata throws herself in as the mediator between the two. She's had some interactions with Sasuke occasionally. They've been a little awkward, but she knows how to. She knows how to not get under his skin. She calms them both down and says if they should try to strategize. Since Kakashi is supposed to be the one of the best Jonin in the Leaf. At least that's what she's heard before. If this is the same Kakashi she's heard her father mention before. Um, Maybe Sasuke will consider it because, he does respect Hinata and he knows that Naruto has been training. He's not completely oblivious to the fact that Hinata and Naruto are friends. So he has to at least think that he's better than what he used to be. Especially if he apparently had some kind of forbidden jutsu, something called the Shadow Clone. He's not really sure what that means, but he's like, "Fine, I guess we can. I guess we can talk. Meet me at my compound later in the evening. We can meet up there." He ends up leaving before they can get a word in, and Naruto ends up turning to Hinata. He's like, "Are you sure you want to ask him? I don't really think he's gonna be too much of a help. He's too much of an emo bastard." And this gets Hinata to sweat drop, but she clarifies that it'd be best that they try to work together on this. Like she mentioned before, Kakashi is a Jonin, not like Mizuki. Not like Mizuki Sensei. And Naruto definitely filled Hinata in whenever before class started. They met up sometime earlier in the morning after she had heard everything that went down the other night, and or at least whatever rumors were circulating. And Naruto ended up filling her in. I'm not sure if he would tell her about the Nine Tails. He may feel a little nervous that it may scare his one and only friend away. So he definitely kept that bit to himself. But he told her that Mizuki was a traitor, how he tricked him, and how he learned a few jutsu. That he definitely wants to show off. And Hinata can even say, you can definitely show off your jutsu when we meet up with Sasuke. Show him how much you've grown, and we'll be able to come up with a proper plan to deal with Kakashi Sensei. And he agrees before inviting her to eat some Ichiraku, which, she once again has a little blush before she agrees. They go out to Ichiraku for some lunch, where Ayame, the daughter, is teasing the two of them relentlessly. Ever since, Mizuki made that comment the other night, and from just earlier before when Hinata made mention of having a family, now these comments are actually starting to get to Naruto's head. He actually begins to join Hinata in trying to refute them, which almost dampens her mood until she notices that Naruto's face actually has, a faint blush, which is not at all common to see on Naruto Uzumaki's face, at least not from what she's seen. So she actually briefly wonders if it has any meaning, if there's a reason as to why he's only now starting to refute that kind of stuff the way she does. But they don't really get too much time before their orders arrive in front of them. They eat, and Hinata definitely shows off that she's able to keep up with Naruto in terms of how much ramen she can eat. But eventually they decide to part ways. Maybe they briefly train in some forest area, or possibly at her own compound for a bit. He shows off the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which she points out that he's still using a little bit too. He's still using too much chakra, but it's not nearly as bad as before, and she can already tell just from the density of these shadow clones and the way that they're formed. It's actually not as wasteful as he could have been before, which definitely gets him to preen. He's obviously been improving thanks to Hinata's help, and he even credits her that without her he wouldn't have come this far. She once again has a little blush on her face, but she accepts the praise from her best friend, and they decide that it's about time that they go meet up with Sasuke at the Uchiha clan compound. So they head out, and they meet up with Sasuke. He greets them right outside, and tells them that there's a training ground on his compound where they can show off their abilities that they'll be using against Kakashi, and try to come up with some kind of plan. He also says that he has something to show them, but they can't tell anyone, no matter what. It's something he's been working on. He's not the best at it, and he was only able to recently awaken it. This gets him a little confused, but Hinata has a feeling she knows where this is going. So she's able to get Naruto to quiet down and not ask too many questions as they begin to move into the compound. They eventually get to the training area, and Naruto finally just straight up blurts out, "What is it you wanted to? What is it you've been hyping up? You got some kind of secret jutsu or something?" He's like, "Something like that." He turns to face them, and in his eyes are two Tomoe Sharingan. So, in response to Hinata becoming such a proper rival towards him, he has been upping his training. And we can say that around the same time that she ended up claiming the spot as top kunoichi, um, Sasuke ended up reawakening his Sharingan. He had already awakened it the night of the Uchiha massacre. It's not only in the anime but also in the manga. He had actually awakened it when Itachi killed his parents and when he used the Tsukuyomi on Sasuke. But the trauma and his repressing his own memories of the event ended up causing him to subconsciously repress his ability to use the Sharingan. In his training, pushing himself to face off against this proper rival of his, and the way the rest of the class was upping their own training, improving their skills, and he wanted to make sure that he stood on top, to make sure that he would be strong enough to take on Itachi. He would not accept anything less. Not so much the hate-filled feeling that he ended up gaining, later on in the series, but more of a solid determination with, a very deep and dark root to it. And he ended up reawakening his Sharingan to a similar level that he had when he faced off against Haku. Two Tomoe in one eye, one Tomoe in the other. And over these last 6 months, he's been able to evolve the other eye, so he has two Tomoe in each eyes. He has two Tomoe in both of his eyes. Um, he's been improving his usage with them and has even diversified his. He's expanded his Jutsu arsenal just that little bit. Probably has already learned something like the flame bullet jutsu. I think that's what it's called, like the dragon flame bullet jutsu. Let me see. Dragon flame bullet. Yeah, fire dragon flame bullet. That's what it's called. The jutsu that I'm pretty sure he ended up using against Orochimaru. Um, I think he used it against Orochimaru. I know for a fact that he used it against Itachi. Oh, no, wait, no, it was a jutsu used by the third Hokage. But we can easily say it's somewhere in the Uchiha clan library. They were fire style specialists. So he has that jutsu, and he still has, Fireball and Great Fireball, and most likely even has something like his biggest jutsu that he can make use of is like the Phoenix Flower jutsu, alongside his Great Fireball. So he's been expanding his usage of fire style, which he does show off. He shows off a little bit. He has a little fun showing off his usage of his Sharingan. And he even spars against Hinata, who actually has to break out her Byakugan and her gentle fist techniques. She does end up taking him down in Taijutsu, but he's actually able to, she has to weave out of the way of his usage of basic fireball jutsus. So he's definitely improved, and then he actually turns over to challenge Naruto, asks him what exactly does he have that he wanted to show off so much, that he was bragging about before, which gets Naruto to actually smirk. He crosses his fingers that iconic hand sign, and casts the multi shadow clone jutsu. He was able to see that Sasuke was absolutely no joke. He was actually able to keep up with Hinata, and he was actually able to make better use of the intercepting fist style, the main style of the Uchihas. So he was actually been able to improve his usage of taijutsu ever since awakening his Sharingan, or reawakening it, I guess. So Naruto decides not to hold back. He ends up bringing out like 15 shadow clones, and they spread themselves out and they begin to face off against Sasuke. He's able to decently hold his own. It's definitely a little difficult having to keep up with so many, since he's been practicing with his Sharingan more so on his own, and in one-on-one combat, it's pretty easy to keep up with his opponents, even if Hinata is very talented. Um, he was able to decently keep up with Hinata, but with multiple targets, with multiple opponents, and with each of them having around a similar level of chakra, so it makes it a lot more difficult for him to pick apart which one is which. It's not gonna be easy. Um, he's able to decently hold his own, but when Naruto starts making use of his exploding shadow clones, which Sasuke has to try to figure out which one is which, normal shadow clones or exploding shadow clones, or even just normal Naruto, and he has to try to detonate them using his fire style. It becomes an interesting battle between the two of them, especially when Naruto then breaks out his usage of the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, which actually makes it a little difficult for Sasuke to keep track of them, because it'll start as one normal mundane shuriken with no chakra signature, but then Naruto casts the jutsu, and suddenly there are this little swarm of little blue dots heading towards him. Now, of course, he's also able to see them just normally, but it's messing with his vision a little bit. It definitely throws him off, and Naruto is actually able to get a few decent hits on Sasuke because of it. Although he eventually ends up, causing them all to poof when he fires out a Phoenix Flower Jutsu. This is when Hinata decides to call an end to the match. She thinks it's going a little too far and they need to hold back. They both reluctantly agree, and and then they begin. Hinata actually helps them with their healing. Naruto, she's always noticed, has always had pretty quick healing, so but she doesn't want to make him feel bad, so she makes sure to utilize her healing jutsu on the both of them. She mainly speeds up Naruto's own very quick recovery speed, so he's up after like a few seconds of her just lightly applying like the Mystic Palm jutsu before she transitions to Sasuke. Takes a little while, maybe a few minutes, but they take that time to begin formulating some ideas. And Hinata reveals her ability to use poisons. Naruto probably was aware, uh, and he even offers himself up as a test dummy. She tries to refuse, and he even says that one, it's already obvious that he heals fast. They both discover that. Two, if they really need to, he can probably just create a shadow clone. They normally pop due to punches. He's not really sure how they'll handle cuts, but or pokes in this case. But it might they might be able to hold their own. Maybe if he puts a little bit more chakra, makes it a little denser. But either way, he'll offer himself up as a test dummy to see how the poisons will properly work against actual live opponents. And it takes some convincing. Probably Sasuke has to butt in. It's like you said, Kakashi's a Jonin. We can't hold back if we have to plan against him. We don't know what kind of test he's going to come up with, so we need to make sure we know what we're doing. We know what we're facing. And if you're confused as to like why are they expecting another test, I'm pretty sure he already revealed that he was going to test them. Well, like why are they expecting a fight against them? Once again, Hinata can make use of the rumor mill from her father and get some information on him. He'd probably be proud, if anything, that she was so clearly fishing for information. But yeah, they end up coming up with a few ideas, and before they all go their separate ways to go home. And Naruto's not going to be taken out by like food poisoning. He meets up with Hinata to have some dinner, probably at like a cafe or something along those lines. Because I know that Hinata, she likes like sweets and desserts. I'm pretty sure her favorite food is supposed to be like cinnamon buns. I think that was like some trivia that was posted, like how Sasuke likes tomatoes because his mom used to make them or something. She used to always add them to meals. So yeah, uh, Naruto and Hinata meet up for some breakfast or something, probably like a cafe, just to have something light. And before they end up heading out to the training grounds where they end up meeting Sasuke, he reveals that he too had some food, and not to worry, he didn't starve himself. They had pretty very quickly. Naruto himself probably insisted that they eat something. They'd probably puke from not having anything in their stomach, which Sasuke ends up pointing out that doesn't make any sense. But whatever, he'll eat if they really think that he should. He's a little more receptive to other people's opinions here. And when it comes to the actual bell test, Naruto does charge in, but he manages to substitute with a shadow clone. Um, he ends up throwing out a kunai when Kakashi ends up catching it, and he tells them, "Okay, now it's time to start." And the kunai ends up transforming into a shadow clone, which turned out to be an exploding shadow clone. He managed to get out of the way, but he was decently impressed, only for him to be swarmed by a number of shurikens, and some of them begin to explode. It seems like he either managed to transform more shadow clones in more explosive clones into kunai and shuriken, or he managed to merge the exploding shadow clone jutsu with the shuriken shadow clone jutsu, which he says would definitely be impressive and very ingenuitive, very very intelligent, very tactical, very creative. But he ends up appearing behind the main Naruto. Seemed he was able to suss out his the real one. He says that that's not going to be enough. He tries to go for another 1,000 years of pain. I don't know if it's 1,000 years of pain or 1,000 years of death, but he's intercepted by Sasuke. He comes in with his taijutsu and he tells Naruto that he needs to pay attention. Um, Naruto retorts, and the two of them engage against Kakashi in taijutsu, with Sasuke making use of his intercepting fist, but not yet his Sharingan. Not quite yet. He wants to still keep that a bit of a surprise. He does end up throwing out a fireball jutsu, which Naruto combines with making a few shadow clones to toss towards Kakashi. He actually transforms one of them into those giant kind of shurikens that he saw Mizuki use when they fought against one another. You know, the big old shuriken he carried on his back that he impaled Iruka with? He makes it similar to that, and he throws it, and he ends up casting the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu on it, and he has to deal with giant ass shuriken that are about to explode, meeting up with a fireball. He is able to get out of the way. He used an Earth style Earth Dome Jutsu to give him some cover before using the, I think it's like hiding like a mole Jutsu or the moving like a mole, so that he can travel underground. He attempts to use the Headhunter Jutsu on Sasuke, but he ended up activating his Sharingan so that he could keep track of Kakashi, and he was able to just barely jump into the air and avoid his ankles being caught before before trying to backflip out of the way. Um, Kakashi ends up popping out of the ground. He's impressed that Sasuke already has access to his Sharingan, and that he's so close to properly maturing it. Of course, he'd still have a long way to go, even if he did have three Tomoe. But even so, the point still stands. He's very impressed. Um, Naruto ends up asking him. He's going to be a lot more impressed when they see what else he has in store. He turns around. He's not even. He doesn't even have his book out. He's making use of both hands, but he hasn't yet pulled out his Sharingan. He is expecting for a Shadow Clone to come flying at him, or another rain of Shuriken. What he doesn't expect is to see Hinata making full use of her Byakugan and with chakra lacing around her fingertips. She begins to employ her usage of the 32 palm technique, and he is able to, he's able to keep himself out of the way. He's still not completely trying, so it's actually a decent effort for him to avoid all of her strikes. But he also has to try to avoid um, Naruto's usage of his Shuriken Shadow Clones. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when she ends up she pulls a partial rotation. She hasn't completely mastered the technique. She hasn't even properly mastered the 64 palms, but she is able to quicken her movement and briefly throw off Kakashi's attempt at trying to grab her and stop her in her tracks by grabbing her wrist. She's able to briefly break off any contact he tries to make before she ends up breaking out her own original technique. I'm pretty sure this was a filler only, but I'm tossing this in there because why the hell not? She begins to move her arms all around her, and she makes use of her defensive 64 palm technique. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Or is it protective 64 palms? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's protective 64 palms. Yeah, protecting 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Um, she is able to make kind of like chakra blades. She's able to kind of make a barrier where no one can get past her. So she's able to She has to start by making use of the starting motion of the rotation before building up momentum and creating her protective barrier of chakra slashes. Or maybe it's only 32 palms since she hasn't properly mastered these 64 palms. So we can say it's protective 32 palms, and this causes Kakashi to actually back away. Um, what he doesn't notice that he's backing directly into Sasuke, who ends up kicking him into the air, only for Naruto to follow that up with sending his shadow clones into the air, and Hinata herself ends up jumping towards the top so that she can meet him at the apex of his launch, and she strikes down with a 32 palm technique before subtly stabbing him with Senbon. It's actually an improvisation of her 32 palms. Don't really have a name for the technique. Um, Probably just same how it's instead of protecting 8 trigrams, it's penetrating 8 trigrams, 32 palms, where she instead strikes the pressure points and delivers poison senbon needles with each strike. So he ends up landing towards the ground, collapsing, only for it to poof, revealing that it was a shadow clone. It was a decently made shadow clone. He had to substitute, or maybe it'll just be a log. It's completely cracked with a whole bunch of Senbone poking into it, stabbed into it like probably like a quarter inch deep, and there are cracks from where Naruto and Sasuke struck it, and here they're all kind of caught off guard. They're all kind of winded from how much they've been pushing themselves. Sasuke with his usage of the Sharingan and his fire style, Naruto with his constant usage of his shadow clones and shuriken shadow clones and explosive shadow clones and explosive shuriken shadow clones, and Hinata with her usage of the 32 palms, a partial rotation, her protective 32 palms, and her piercing 32 palms. That's what I'm gonna call it, piercing 32 palms. Um, they're just a little bit winded. Um, they end up hearing, some chuckling. Kakashi decides he kind of wants to mess with his team, even though he's kind of already decided that they passed. He wants to see how far they can go. So he's seen their usage of taijutsu and ninjutsu. He wants to see if they have any skill with genjutsu. He ends up casting a genjutsu on them, which, Hinata and Sasuke are definitely able to break through using their dojutsu and chakra control. Um, this actually briefly knocks out Naruto. He's actually thrown out from the battle, and Kakashi ends up using the opportunity to tie him up using some ninja wire. He ends up asking them if he tells them that he kind of has an ultimatum for them. He ends up pulling Naruto towards him, and he's facing off against them on the other side of the clearing. He says that if he'll make the two of, it's clear that the two of them are the brains of this operation. So here's the deal. He'll give each of them the bell and pass them as his students. They just have to give up Naruto. He'll be sent back to the academy for the rest of his life, never being able to promote into being a genin, never being able to accomplish his dreams. And this causes the two of them to freeze up before they just flat out refuse. Hinata herself is actually decently pissed. It's the first time anyone has seen any proper anger from her. She's actually properly pissed at this, and she refutes that she'll never betray Naruto. He was the first person to properly believe in her in so long. She will not give him up. And Sasuke is of the same mind. He won't be leaving anyone behind. That's something that he would do, and he'll never allow himself to stoop to such a level. He won't be leaving Naruto behind. He's his teammate now, whether he likes it or not. And he's got to say, the blonde ain't so bad. They both get into a ready stance, and Kakashi is ready to release Naruto from the genjutsu, only for him to feel a brief flare of chakra. Naruto's own chakra control is good enough that he's actually able to release himself. Not the easiest task, but while he was in the genjutsu, which we can easily say was him being ridiculed by Hinata and Sasuke before being sent back to, kind of like how Sakura saw Sasuke, all beaten up and bloodied and practically dead. He sees his teammates in a similar condition, and they berate him for failing him, or for failing them. And the one that really hits him hard is Hinata. And but he was quick. He was eventually able to acknowledge that it wasn't a genjutsu when their bodies end up kind of disappearing, and he's stuck in a little pit of darkness. And he felt something very deep, very primal, similar to Mizuki, but on a much grander scale. Not too grandiose, but more than that brief flare. That bubbling warmth of anger boiled through him, and it enabled him, and he was able to think clearly for a few seconds, realizing that this was a genjutsu before taking that little bit of warm chakra and flaring it, shocking his system and releasing himself from the genjutsu. Everyone actually noticed this. Hinata and Sasuke were able to see the red chakra flowing through Naruto. It confused them, Hinata especially, as she could see it start from his his stomach area. She could see the great concentration of chakra as it flared out throughout the entirety of his chakra system. And Kakashi himself was worried, especially when he sees the blonde glaring at him with red eyes, exaggerated whiskers, as he lets out a shout and ends up breaking through the ninja wire. Kakashi backs up, and Naruto tells him that if he ever tries doing that again, he doesn't care if he's his sensei, he'll knock his teeth out of his face. He then charges towards Kakashi with all of his shadow clones, with a whole swarm of shadow clones, around the same amount he used against Mizuki, 1,500. Maybe just a few hundred more. and Kakashi ends up breaking out his Sharingan. He has to make use of a few jutsu to clear out the absolute swarm, and by the Hinata and Sasuke are quick to offer their support. Hinata is throwing in Senbon to try to catch Kakashi off guard whenever she sees a gap in the battle, whereas Sasuke works together with Naruto's shadow clones and their explosive variants to create big explosions to try to shake up Kakashi, cause some greater amount of damage. They still think that the test is going on, and about halfway through the battle, the QB influence ends up wearing off, but they're still kind of left wondering what the hell was that. Kakashi himself was very greatly worried, but when he sees the influence fade from all of Naruto's shadow clones, he calms down. He does end up breaking out his own Sharingan, which actually causes Sasuke to lose some concentration before one of Naruto's clones hits him over the back of the head. He tells him he better not get distracted like that again. He ain't gonna have anything happen to his teammates. Sasuke rebukes that he was the one who got captured, so he shouldn't be criticizing him. But he won't be doing that again, so don't worry about him. Naruto the clone looks off to the distance, says that he wasn't worried about him, only to get poofed by probably by a shuriken from Kakashi, who chastised them. The exam is still going on, and Hinata herself pops in with the real Naruto popping up not too long after, saying that he's right, they need to finish this. By now, the clones have all been taken out, and Kakashi is actually left panting a little bit. He never expected for these Genin to push him so far, but he has to say he's impressed. He sees the three gearing up for one final confrontation against them. They're all properly winded themselves. They begin to charge forward, but he stops them, telling them that they passed with a nice smile. They're confused, and they falter. They're, all of their abilities relaxing, their chakra, their stances, and Hinata and Sasuke's dojutsus. All of Naruto's shadow clones begin to poof as they ask him, what is he talking about? The bells haven't been taken. And Kakashi smiles. He ends up explaining that the bell test is simply a deception. It's made to weed out those who would betray their comrades, who would betray their friends. It's very clear neither of these three are the type to do so. So he's proud of them. He'll be allowing them to pass. He ends up taking them over. He tells them to walk with him as he pulls down his headband over his eye. He actually glances over at Sasuke, tells him that he'll explain things later, but for now they need to see this. He takes him to the cemetery, and he gives his speech. Those who don't follow the rules are scum, but those who betray their friends are worse than scum. And he even turns towards Sasuke specifically and says that the person who told him this was the same person who gifted him with his Sharingan. He was worse than scum at one point in time, but he decided to go back for his comrades. He saw the error in his ways, and the price that he ended up paying for his initial abandoning of them was that he lost his eye. And beyond that, he lost possibly his best friend. They weren't even able to properly get over all of their issues. He died shortly after he parted these words to him. But before he did, he made sure to give them this eye to protect the other member of their team. And he failed that too. He doesn't want them to fail. He doesn't want them to suffer like they did. The shinobi world is not meant for those light of heart. They're going to have to look underneath the underneath, and possibly even underneath that as well, if they want to survive this world. And beyond that, they're going to have to stick by each other's side. They're going to have to trust each other, and never, ever abandon each other. Otherwise, they're as good as dead. They all take this to heart, before he tells them that they'll begin their training tomorrow. He initially, on any other circumstance, he probably would have only kept to basic teamworking exercise, and while that's definitely going to be incorporated, it's clear that they're ready for the next level stuff. They'd better be ready. This training is not going to be easy. He might even compare it to hell. But beyond that, he wants to see what they're capable of. So he tells them to go home. Celebrate. Have some fun before their training begins tomorrow. They'll also be taking their first D-rank missions, so to be prepared. They all go home, and before they do, Naruto and Hinata make their way to Ichiraku Ramen, where they invite Sasuke. He almost initially declines, but he decides to stick around. Kakashi's words are kind of ringing with him. Don't abandon these guys, huh? They may be able to help me. Well, I guess we'll see. He might as well give it a chance. It definitely doesn't seem like something Itachi would do. So, maybe this is the right path. He decides to follow along with them, and they each get some Ichiraku ramen. He even asks his to be prepared with some tomatoes to place in his ramen. And he actually decides it's not that bad. You can see why they like this place so much. Naruto grins and he says if he likes this place, he may even like that place that Hinata likes so much, the cafe they always go to. This actually gets Sasuke's attention. Cafe. He didn't know that they were like that. This gets the both of them confused before Hinata begins to stutter and blush, saying that no, it's not like that. Naruto's still confused and he questions him. What is he talking about? He's like, huh. He's like, well, I guess I kind of see it now. You two are dating, aren't you? Naruto himself actually gets a little indignant, but he's also embarrassed and flustered, saying that no, it's not like that. They're just best friends. He says, huh. Well, they both act weird. He would have thought that they were dating. This gets Naruto and Sasuke to get into a bit of an argument, although it's more Sasuke taking joy in actually managing to tease and get under Naruto's skin, outside of the normal banter that they usually have. He didn't know that Naruto could get so flustered like this. It's pretty hilarious. Over a girl, no less. And Hinata at that? Who knew that he had this kind of side to him? Meanwhile, Hinata is having a nuclear meltdown, not at all helped by Ayame constantly chiming in with her own little comments. Old man Ichiraku is smiling at this, glad that Naruto finally has some friends and family. And looking between them, specifically at Naruto and Hinata, you can't help but see a blonde-haired man and a pregnant red-haired woman. Yes, he really is glad. They would be too. So here we get into their D rank missions, and thrown in with this, they're going to be getting some advanced training from Kakashi beyond what they got in canon. Kakashi is definitely going to be helping Sasuke cultivate his abilities with his Sharingan, possibly teaching him some how to use Genjutsu through it. He knows that he can cancel Genjutsu, but he asks him if he's actually able to utilize it. He says that he was able to learn the hand signs and the techniques and theory behind the Genjutsu that's in the Uchiha clan library, but he hasn't been able to properly test it on anyone. He's not exactly sure if he'd be having any willing test subjects, and he says, well, although he does end up mentioning that Naruto had offered to Hinata to use his shadow clones for her poisons, and he'd probably be able to talk the blonde into letting him cast Genjutsu on it. Kakashi is glad that not only is Naruto willing to offer his services, but that Sasuke is willing to point them out and consider actually pursuing them. He's glad that Sasuke is willing to trust his teammates. But beyond that, he can also help him as well. He has a Sharingan, and he's been through a lot worse than whatever kind of Genjutsu a Genin can pull on him, even if it is a Genin like Sasuke, who's arguably Chunin level. He tells him that he'll be able to offer himself as a test subject as well. Um, Beyond that, he teaches the entirety of the team some better chakra control, teaching them how to tree walk and water walk, so they're going to have that down. For Naruto, he's probably just going to be teaching him how to improve his usage of his Shuriken Jutsu, possibly teaching him how to manipulate his Shuriken and thrown weapons using ninja wire, how to make use of it, and helping him to improve his taijutsu beyond basic sparring against his teammates, giving him actual pointers from an experienced combatant in, Kakashi himself. And, yeah, he's basically teaching him, water walking and tree walking a lot earlier, helping him refine his taijutsu, and helping him learn how to use ninja wire, and being a little bit more crafty with his usage of his shadow clones and his shuriken shadow clone jutsu. With Hinata, he can't exactly help her the greatest amount. He does have some basics in healing, but it's clear that she herself is going to be able to progress quite well on her own. Although he does recommend that she intern at the at the the ninja hospital. They could always use some extra hands. She can go there as she can get some basic instruction as a medical nin. They offer the teaching to whoever is willing to take it up, so she can study there. And this actually this actually kind of piques her interest. She's definitely gonna want to do that. And beyond that, he has an old friend in TNI, although maybe not exactly. Friend isn't exactly the right word. He'll be able to help her. He may be able to set something up so that she can better train her usage of senbon and poisons. Although he's not exactly sure if that'll be able to happen anytime soon. Maybe, but they do have to prepare for an upcoming. But they're gonna be busy for the foreseeable future, so he'll have to consider it. For now, so long as she sticks to what she's been doing, as well as increasing her uses of her chakra control and her clan jutsus, as well as her own original clan jutsus, he thinks that she'll be just fine. Uh, he does obviously help her with sparring and improving her techniques, but there's only so much he can offer in that area of expertise. And he is able to point her in the right direction to further her medical studies. As for and yeah, I already mentioned Sasuke improving his usage of Genjutsu via his Sharingan. Um, they do eventually get to the point where Naruto is kind of fed up. He does, maybe he's not so rude about it, but he does, he just kind of asks Kakashi, instead of blowing up to the third Hokage and Kakashi, and sitting on the ground like a child, he actually stands up. He's standing and he properly asks if they can get a higher ranked mission. Hiruzen questions Kakashi if they're ready, and Iruka tries to protest, but Kakashi does make it clear he thinks that his team is definitely more than ready for a C rank mission. Hiruzen decides to, acquiesce. He decides to relent, and he assigns them the mission with Tazuna. They end up heading out, and Naruto, interestingly enough, actually has more than actually has he actually has the same shuriken that Mizuki has. He decided that instead of having to transform his jutsu, his shuriken, he'd properly get his hands on one of those kind of larger shuriken, not the demon windmill shuriken. He does still have that in his backpack, um, but he also has the same kind that Mizuki has, which is just larger than the stand. It's the same shape and style of the standard shuriken, but just larger. He has one of them, and he even says that he managed to pick up a technique from Old Man Third. He offered it to him. He had stayed behind after one of their D rank missions and talked to him, and he had learned how he was improving under Kakashi and using Shuriken Jutsu. And they had a brief talk where Hiruzen explained that he was actually the creator of the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. He made it after his master and teacher, the second Hokage Tobirama, had made the original Shadow Clone Jutsu. And he even made another variant jutsu called the Shuriken Expansion Jutsu. So he's going to be able to use that so that he can increase the size of his giant shuriken and his normal shuriken to the size of the one on his back. So he's going to be able to throw those giant shurikens that Hiruzen can use. He says that he's been practicing a bit with Kakashi Sensei. He's not exactly the best at it because of how small he is, but he'll be able to pull out shuriken at this size more often. This is just kind of like his signature. This is kind of going to be his main one that he's going to be using. Um, but yeah, but yeah, they end up, they go on their way as they're making their way out of the village. They do end up encountering the Demon Brothers. Um, Sasuke, and we can easily say that Naruto, he's probably not going to be freezing here. While he hasn't exactly faced life or death, he did engage in a much more dangerous and a much more hard fought battle against Kakashi. So wouldn't be that hard to imagine that his increased training with Kakashi and his sparring with his other two teammates, he's a little desensitized to violence. So he's not going to be freezing up against the Demon Brothers, and he and Sasuke are able to take them down, and Hinata actually administers a poison to them to keep them paralyzed while Kakashi questions them, just to make the whole process just that little bit easier. The Demon Brothers are questioned, and they end up coming to their decision. They confront Tazuna, specifically Kakashi confronts him, and they come to their decision that they want to continue the mission. Kakashi decides, all right, I guess we can go forward, and they continue. We end up getting to the initial. Oh, hold on. Okay, no, never mind. It's nothing. Okay, yeah, no, it's fine. So we get to our initial confrontation with Zabuza. Kakashi's not going to be as, out of practice. He's been training with his team, like sparring against them like once a week. And I always thought like it was about a month between the Bell Test and the Land of Waves arc. I always thought that was anywhere from like 2 weeks to a month. I always thought that was like 2 to 4 weeks. So yeah, he's not as like ridiculously out of shape, but he does still end up getting caught up in the water prison, and Naruto and Sasuke do end up executing their plan. Although Sasuke is actually Naruto is actually able to kind of do it on his own. He launches out the Demon Windmill Shuriken, and Zabuza catches the first one. He has to jump over the second one, which transforms into Naruto. He launches the kunai at Zabuza's arm so that he has to pull away, and the Demon Wind Shuriken that he's holding ends up transforming into a Naruto, as does the kunai that just passed by his arm. They transform into Naruto's, and the one that he's holding, that was the Demon Windmill Shuriken, ends up exploding. Um, the one that threw the kunai that was in the shadow of it ends up poofing as it reveals that it was a basic shadow clone, and the one that threw the kunai ends up standing on the water with Kakashi. As Zabuza ends up recovering, he probably pulled up like a water wall jutsu, just in the nick of time to keep himself safe from the explosion. If he tried to boot it away, but he did end up getting some burns and scorch marks. He ends up getting booted away to. He ends up getting blown away to, or I'm not gonna have it poof. He ends up getting blown away to where the other shadow clone was, which also explodes, sending him back towards Kakashi and the other shadow clone Naruto, and that Naruto ends up throwing out a whole storm of shurikens, and before finally poofing. Naruto didn't put too much chakra into all of these. He just wanted to serve as a distraction. He ended up throwing a whole storm of explosive shadow clone shurikens before poofing. Kakashi retreated as he had heard the plan that the shadow clone gave to him. So he ended up moving out of the way as Sasuke ended up launching a great fireball, or no, he ended up launching his fire dragon flame bullets towards the explosion to increase its firepower, and they kind of have, and Kakashi ends up landing on the shore with all of them. Hinata herself she's been surveying the battle, and she's been by Tazuna to ensure that we can easily say that she was able to she's been holding off the water clones, because I forgot like he made some water clones, so we could say that he's been holding off I don't know if he made a lot of them. I think he made like one or two, and she's been holding them off because Zabuza definitely didn't take these Genin seriously, especially when they initially froze up when feeling his killing intent. So he didn't initially take them too seriously, but Sasuke and Hinata have been taking care of them. Hinata was able to briefly dispatch one, which gave Sasuke the opening he needed to launch the Fire Dragon Flame Bullet before re-entering the battle against the other water clone with Hinata. Kakashi, seeing this, turned his attention towards the water clone and was about to take care of it before Hinata ended up landing her piercing 8 trigrams 32 palm. Or maybe she just used the basic 32 palms to dispel it, and she's definitely a little winded. It was not an easy fight even against these very weakened water clones. Um, but she was able to dispatch of it, and they all, she gets into position with Naruto and Sasuke in front of Tazuna, whereas Kakashi prepares himself for the next round against Zabuza. Zabuza appears. He's bloodied. He has burns all over himself, and he is not in good condition. Before he is then stopped, before he tries to engage in the battle, before he is stopped, Haku has decided to intervene a little earlier, and Haku ends up taking down Zabuza using the Senbon. But Hinata can clearly tell that there's something wrong. She's pretty sure that's not the point that you would want to strike to kill a target. As Haku is making his claim of being a hunter nin, and Kakashi himself isn't as terribly winded. He still has a little bit of gas left in him. So when Hinata calls out Haku and Haku briefly freezes, Haku actually tries to go for the killing blow against Hinata, but Kakashi intervenes, and Haku is still holding Zabuza, so Haku has to make the retreat. Um, Not before getting cut by an electrified kunai that Kakashi ended up tossing at her, or tossing at him. Managed to get a cut on his leg, and it pierced through a tree. It did cause Haku to briefly falter, and the Genin were about to make their move before they were stopped by Kakashi, allowing Haku and Zabuza to escape, and both of which in much worse condition than they were in canon. Kakashi briefly tells him that it's fine. He has both of their blood, and he reveals or he at least has Haku's blood, so it'll be fine. They question him, and he says that he'll explain later. He tells Naruto to send a shadow clone to retrieve the kunai and to get it back to him, and to seal it away in this scroll. He tosses him a scroll, and he tells him that he'll explain everything when he wakes up. He then promptly passes out, causing his team to briefly panic. Um, the Genin are in proper condition. They're not really too injured. Maybe a few scrapes, cuts, a few bruises here or there from getting roughed up by the water clones. But Hinata focuses all of her healing on Kakashi, restoring him to a more proper condition, so he doesn't have to be carried like he was in canon. He's able to walk at least after, like, let's say a few minutes rest, maybe about half an hour before they decide to continue their trek. Naruto was able to grab the kunai, and he ends up explaining. He has some hunter nin. He has some, what are they called? They're the dog shinobis. His summons. He explains that he has his summons. When he's properly recovered, they'll be able to track him down. But for now, they need to get to a safe place. So they head over to Tazuna's house. Um, Kakashi's in much better condition, but he is still decently tired out. He's decently tuckered out, and he tells them that he's going to be upping some of their training. Um, he's not going to be able to make it. He's not going to be able to get anything too far, but he needs to up their current capabilities uh, by as much as he possibly can. So he's going to be training. He's going to be upping his genjutsu training with Sasuke, as well as teaching him a new fire style technique. For Hinata, he's probably going to be teaching her how to. I know that Hinata has, if I'm correct, Hinata has lightning style and fire style. I'm pretty sure she has lightning and fire style as her affinities. I don't remember where they were listed, but I'm pretty sure that's because I know, like, yes, her natures are fire and lightning release. So he's gonna be teaching her how to run electricity through her senbon and through her gentle fist techniques. He tests all of their affinities, and he finds out that Sasuke and Hinata have these same affinities, although it's inverted for how powerful they are. Sasuke's more powerful affinity is for fire style because he's obviously been practicing it longer, and he has a decently powerful affinity for lightning. Hinata is about the same, although her affinities are about the same level of intensity of strength, whatever you want to call it. They're around the same level. And for for Naruto, he ends up learning that he has wind style. He knows a few wind style techniques, and he knows how to refine your usage. He knows how to, like, instruct him in how to refine his usage of wind style, and he theorizes that they'll probably have. I don't even remember how long they had in canon, but considering the severity of Zabuza's injuries, they'll have about 2 weeks. We can say that they'll have 2 weeks around this time. So he ends up telling Naruto that he's gonna be the one mainly behind in terms of uh, making usage of his elements, because Sasuke and Hinata are going to be able to learn from each other. They're going to be able to use their dojutsu to to make quicker progress. So Naruto is going to have to find some way to close the gap using the limited knowledge that Kakashi has, as well as his lack of genjutsu of dojutsu. He questions how the hell is he going to manage that, and Kakashi ends up bringing up the shadow clones, and he's like, oh, so that's what the memory thing can be used for. And he's like, oh, you know about it? He's like, yeah, I read about it in the scroll. I wasn't really sure what it was talking about though. He's like, you never noticed? He's like, I guess a few times, but I was always focused on the fight. He's like, not the worst approach, but you're definitely gonna want to it's definitely gonna be useful here. So he ends up telling Naruto, and over the course of 2 weeks, he's able to learn how to cut through the leaf. He's not going to be cutting through a waterfall, but he's able to cut through the leaf pretty quickly with his refined chakra control, and we can say that he actually has to cut through trees instead. So he learns how to cut through trees, and with the amount of chakra that he has and his refined chakra control, it's not going to be too long before he's able to get that down. And he's mainly learns how to channel it through his kunai, through his shuriken, and maybe he can learn the wind bullet jutsu and the great breakthrough. Those are going to be the two wind-based techniques that he has for now. He learns them so that he can use them in combination with Hinata and Sasuke's fire style techniques. Hinata herself isn't going to be making too crazy progress in terms of fire style. She does end up learning how to she learns how to set fire to her, similar to okay, so she's going to be mainly learning how to use lightning style because it's going to be the most useful for her fighting style. Although she does shelve her fire affinity for later. She mixes it with her piercing strike so that she ends up making two different techniques. So she has her protective 32 palms, her normal 32 palms. She has her piercing 32 palms, and she has her paralyzing 32 palms. So the way she uses them is different. For piercing, she's mainly going to be running lightning chakra through basic senbon so that she can strike basic uh so that she can strike either chakra points or pressure points. Her paralyzing strike is her running lightning chakra through poisoned needles so that she can paralyze her opponents and remove them from the equation. Piercing is more for kill shots, and obviously protective 32 palms is to protect herself, and that's basically what she learns how to do. So she has paralyzing 32 palms and piercing 32 palms. Um, as for Sasuke, he ends up learning the Phoenix Flower Fire Style Phoenix Flower Jutsu, and I don't really know. I don't think there's like too many lightning style moves. Let me see. Lightning release jutsu list. Okay. Um, but we can easily say that he learns how to run lightning through his weapons. Not going to be too difficult. He can run it through his kunai and his shuriken. Um, he's not going to be able to learn 2 weeks sadly isn't going to be enough for him to learn the Vichidori. Kakashi laments that if they had more time, he'd probably be able to, but at least later it'll be much easier for him to teach it to him at a later date. And hmm. Okay, so I'm looking for like lightning released. Lightning release jutsu list. Yes, please. Lightning release jutsu list. Okay. I know there's one that's called like electromagnetic murder. I've heard about that one, where like you release lightning in like a barrier around yourself. Okay, so there's the lightning beast tracking fang, or the I think it's also called the lightning beast running jutsu. That like lightning dog that Kakashi created. It's a searing technique, so he could probably learn that. It wouldn't be too hard. Okay, so he's gonna learn the lightning beast running fang or tracking fang. Um, he learns how to channel it through his kunai and his shuriken. He learns the um, electromagnetic murder. Yeah, electromagnetic murder. It releases a wave of electricity. So it's almost like the Chidori Nagashi, like the Chidori stream. So he's gonna learn that. He's gonna learn how to run it through his kunai and stuff. And yeah, because I don't know if he'd. Okay, hold on. There's another one. Oh wait, no, that's through using the Kiba sword. Thunderbolt, Banquet of Lightning. Again, through the usage of the Kiba swords. God damn it. Because I don't know if I want to give him the Chidori just yet. I feel like in 2 weeks, I don't know if that'd be enough. But he's able to run it through he's able to run it through his weapons, and he's able to learn how to. Yeah, he's learning two jutsu anyways. So he's able to run it through his weapons. He can use electromagnetic murder, and he's definitely improving his Sharingan and his usage of Genjutsu. Ooh, we're a little far into it. I guess I'll just cover the fight on the bridge. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so the fight on the bridge. Um, Haku's not going to be risking getting into maybe I don't think Haku would risk getting into contact with maybe Haku does meet with Naruto, but I highly doubt it because Naruto most likely isn't going to be training out on his own. He's probably going to be training either the under the supervision of one of Kakashi's like a Kakashi either Kakashi himself or one of his clones, one of his um one of his ninja dogs, which he has summoned out so that they can keep track of Haku if he ever tries to get in too close to their general vicinity. Um, he doesn't want to risk a sneak assassination um, from Haku, and and if not that, then he's with he's out training with Hinata and Sasuke, who are dojutsu users and who Haku does not want to risk running into in case they recognize him. So yeah, no risk there. They don't meet. Naruto's not going to be meeting Haku. Um, Naruto ends up leaving behind some shadow clones, which he has transformed into like miscellaneous objects around Inari's house, which are able to take care of the thugs that try to break into Inari's place when they end up having their battle on the bridge. They then they decide to assist Inari in gathering everyone, and after they've gathered all the townspeople, and Naruto, the clones feel that Inari and his family are safe, or Inari and Tsunami, Inari's mom. They end up deciding to poof so that they can send the the knowledge that they're safe and whatever remaining chakra that they have over to the boss, to Naruto. So they poof, send their chakra to Naruto, and Naruto is in the middle of a battle against Haku. Right now, it's all of Team 7 against Haku. Haku has decided to go after them, all of them specifically, so that he can then go for Tazuna. Um, Only for it to be revealed that Tazuna was safe all along. It was a transformed clone. Um, Kakashi had suspected that by now they'd most likely been recovered, and this was either this from this point forward they would be replacing Tazuna with a shadow clone. The bridge is actually almost nearly complete. With 2 weeks of uninterrupted progress, they've actually been managed to get much farther in terms of building up the bridge. So he actually didn't need to be here for this one day. They had made a bit of a plan where they would switch off the days where he would be there and when he would be replaced by a shadow clone. And this was the day that he was going to be replaced by the shadow clone. This was going to be their first day of using the plan, and Kakashi is definitely glad that they decided to start the plan today. Otherwise, Tazuna would be in danger. So it's going to be the beginning of Team 7 versus Haku, whereas Kakashi's going to be facing off against Zabuza, which is going to be going about the same as in canon, although Kakashi definitely, he's not as rusty. So he's actually able to get Zabuza pinned maybe like a few minutes earlier, which, in a battle, a minute can be practically everything. That could be the difference between life or death, between failure and winning. Speaking of, in the ice mirrors that Haku has set up, uh, not exactly as easy as a battle as Haku would have preferred. Um, Naruto and Sasuke throwing out combination jutsus of wind and fire style. Hinata making use of her protective 32 palms, and halfway through the battle, Sasuke awakening his third Tomoe in each eye, evolving his capabilities and allowing him to better keep up with Haku's speed. Hinata herself was able to decently keep up and also throw out her own Senbon. She hadn't exactly been trying to engage in taijutsu unless Naruto or Sasuke were able to keep Haku pinned. Naruto himself has been making use of his great chakra reserves, constantly throwing shadow clones in the way, either for himself or occasionally Sasuke and Hinata. Although they can pretty much handle themselves, dodging and weaving, Naruto is actually beginning to get hit a lot more. He sadly isn't able to keep up the way they are, and Haku has definitely noticed this. He does end up getting targeted, and here we can easily say that Haku himself um, is actually able to. He makes use of his one-handed um, jutsu, his one-handed hand signs to formulate those ice senbon to launch at Naruto, while keeping Sasuke and Hinata busy. Hinata though was able to keep track of this and ended up jumping in, was able to disengage from Haku by briefly using her paralyzing 32 palms technique. She was able to land them with literally lightning fast movements and stun Haku long enough for Sasuke to get a solid taijutsu combo. He's probably developed his Lion Barrage by now, so he's actually able to use his Lion Barrage on Haku, which actually rattles him. And Hinata ends up jumping in the way to tank the Senbons for Naruto. This actually gets Sasuke to freeze up when he notices this, and he rushes over to assist. Um, Naruto is kind of frozen. He has no idea what to do. He ends up catching Hinata before she can fall, and he's like whispering to himself. He's muttering, "No, no, 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 no! This can't be happening. Not again." He was definitely, even if accidentally and inadvertently, traumatized by the genjutsu that Kakashi casted on him, and he doesn't want it to happen again. Hinata thanks Naruto for being one of his best friends, for being her best friend, for looking out for her, for recognizing her for who she was. With what seems to be her final breaths, she ends up asking him if he can please take her dream and change the way of the Hyuga clan as the next Hokage, and most likely the greatest Hokage that Konoha will ever see. And she also asks him to protect her younger sister, no matter what. This actually gets to Sasuke himself. He kind of sees himself in Hinata, but he also sees a little bit of Itachi, or at least who he thought Itachi was, when he hears her ask Naruto to protect her little sister. Sasuke comes into Hinata's view, and she asks him to please stand by Naruto's side. She knows that there's something with Sasuke's family, with his brother, and she only asks that he not stray away from Konoha, from his friends, from his team, from Naruto. She asked the both of them, her two best friends, to stick together, to not lose each other. And she seemingly dies. Her chakra signature falls to almost nothing. Sasuke is muttering to himself now. He let someone else he cared about, his friend, his comrade, die in front of him, just like with Itachi. Tears begin to stream down his face, which quickly change from tears of water and anguish to blood-red tears of pain as his Sharingan began to spin. He'd only just awakened it, the full power of the Sharingan, but now he has to experience this power, the same power that Itachi has. He's not only filled with rage at the one who hurt his friend, at the one who killed her, but also with self-loathing. that he really did have to rely on the power that his brother achieved. Naruto himself is of a similar mind. He once again has to call on the power of the demon within, and he couldn't call on it soon enough. He should have used it earlier. He shouldn't have held it back. He shouldn't have held himself back. He shouldn't have feared what Hinata would have thought of him. If it meant protecting her, he would have become a demon, the Nine Tails itself. He can't protect her anymore, but he sure as hell can avenge her, with Sasuke at his side. The two young men look towards Haku, who is stunned at this shift in chakra. Sasuke's itself has become colder than even his own eyes. I keep calling Haku a girl. Colder than even his own eyes. And whereas Naruto's is bubbling, boiling, and it burst out in the shape of a red fox. Sasuke's eyes have changed as of Naruto's. Naruto is properly using his KC as his chakra mode 0, or he's calling upon the power of the Kyuubi. Claws, the whiskers, the eyes, the fangs, and it's swirling all around him, briefly taking the shape of a fox's head before dissipating and reforming back into Naruto's body. He flares out his chakra, and all of the needles in him are sent flying out as steam rises from all of his wounds. Sasuke's own eyes his own Sharingan have stopped spinning. They've settled into a proper pattern. I believe it's 3 rings intersecting with one another. His Mangekyo Sharingan has awakened. The two of them get up, and Naruto tells Sasuke to back him up. He only nods in silent rage before the two of them charge forward to face off against Haku. It is an absolute slaughter. Haku tries to flee, but black flames end up blocking his path. Tears of black blood end up trailing down Sasuke's left eye. As from his right, he begins to form these flames properly into barriers. He has them all spread across Haku's mirrors so that he can't flee anywhere, and the ice melts quicker than anything Haku had ever seen. His ice had always been able to hold up against any flames used against him. He had never seen them melt so quickly, so drastically. He had never seen flames like this to begin with. Before he can properly contemplate this, though, Naruto appears in front of him. Wind is circling around his hand as he launches a punch directly into Haku's face, breaking the mask and causing him to fly into one of the burning mirrors. The flames actually fall to the ground as they begin to melt through the rest of the ice, and Haku feels agonizing pain as some of the flames cling to him and spread across his body. Sasuke puts out the rest of the flames, but only increase the ones already surrounding Haku's body. And Naruto, seeing this, doesn't hold back. He charges the wind that he can feel swirling around him, swirling and mixing with his demonic chakra, and they form claws over his hands as he lashes out from afar, sending what would normally be shockwaves into concentrated blades of air that slash towards into Haku's body and only fan those flames even further. Haku's body is in pieces, charred on the ground. He looks up, and if he had had any more strength, he would have been able to put himself in the way, but he can only watch as his master, his father, is pierced through the heart by Kakashi's Raikiri. Kakashi quickly makes his way over to his students. He sees Hinata on the ground and briefly thinks that he's failed, but is able to notice her faint chakra signature. He looks over to his other 2 students, Sasuke's eyes and Naruto's overall features, his stance. He worries that they may have lost themselves, but there is still hope. He calls out to the 2 of them, and their eyes snap towards him. You can see the pain, the anger, the self-loathing, the rage, but he tells them to calm down and to take another look at Hinata. Her breathing has begun to return. Small, shallow breaths that Naruto is able to pick up with his enhanced hearing. Sasuke himself is able to see the movements, and is also able to see the brief flickering of her chakra. He tells them that they need to extract the needles, but they need to do so carefully. As Naruto and Sasuke quickly rush over, they're interrupted when they hear the slow clapping of Gato. He ends up making his arrival, and he toys with the two corpses that the men of Team 7 have left behind. And they're angry. Maybe maybe their opponents did deserve such brutal deaths, but they did not deserve to be disrespected afterwards. They were simply meant to be left there. They were dead, already beaten, not worth further disgrace. Kakashi asks if his two students can handle them while he handles Hinata, and they swear they've got this. The two of them charge forward, Sasuke making use of his new abilities, coating his fireballs with the black flames, shaping them, making releasing unending torture on these new victims of his, these vile individuals, most likely more vile than Itachi could ever be. Okay, maybe not that far. Maybe they wouldn't slaughter entire clans, but they didn't mind oppressing innocent individuals, people who would never be able to fight back on their own. The same way Itachi had no problem slaughtering the civilian members of the Uchiha clan, those who had never awakened their Sharingan, who had never picked up a kunai in their life, who had never even made use of the fireball jutsu. No, he would not allow this to happen again. Naruto himself was tearing through them, quite literally, sending out scythes and slashes of blades through the air, cleaving limbs and separating heads from bodies, cleaving bodies in half in various ways. Eventually, they calmed down, and the villagers came to see nothing but a whole slew of corpses, charred, cut into, torn apart. They were almost sick, but they saw the boys, these two twin demons, boys who were so willing to push themselves into the darkness for their people, for their innocence. And with guilt in their hearts that they could not have stepped up for themselves sooner, that they had to force these boys to push themselves so far, and from what they could see, push their teammate into such a near death state. They could only lament that they should have tried sooner, that they should have put forward the effort to rebel against Gato's rule, united, so much earlier. Maybe all of this bloodshed could have been spared. They wanted their revenge, but they never wanted it like this, and they never wanted any harm to come to these saviors of theirs. Luckily, the girl seems to be alright. Naruto and Sasuke rush over. They finally returned. Their eyes have properly returned to their normal states. Sasuke has dropped completely out of the Mangekyo Sharingan and practically collapses in front of Hinata. And Naruto is near the same. He's just barely able to catch Sasuke's body before it hits the ground. And the Kyuubi's influence has completely faded from him. Hinata can notice the black blood stains on Sasuke's face from his former tear marks, can notice the healed wounds over Naruto's own body, and can see that their chakra reserves are so low. She briefly wonders what happened. What happened to Haku, to Zabuza, their opponents? What happened to the bridge, to the people? She knows that Naruto's clone popped earlier, and he briefly informed him that they were alright, but she worried. Did they get involved? Are they harmed? She tries to activate her Byakugan, but her chakra reserves are too low. Kakashi calms her, tells her not to worry, and Naruto and Sasuke, despite their own exhausted states, are quick to back him up. She needs to rest, recover. They've handled things so far. It'll be fine. They end up leaving back towards Tazuna, and his family make their way over. The rest of the village are clearing out the bodies from the bridge, dumping them over the side. Although Naruto tells them not to touch Zabuza or Haku's body. Naruto and Sasuke are feeling some level of regret, knowing that Haku didn't even kill Hinata. But at the end of the day, they were shinobi. Naruto himself hated it, and Sasuke as well. That this is their reality, that they can be killed like this, over misunderstandings, over conflicts. But they solidify themselves. They need to remember, at the end of the day, they're human. They can't allow their rage to take over themselves like this ever again. They may be willing to turn themselves into monsters, to demons, for the sake of the people that they love. But what about after the fact? This is definitely going to be sticking with them going forward. But they try to keep Hinata oblivious for as long as they can. They simply say that they want to bury their opponents, give them the respect that they deserve, not as shinobi, but as human beings. And this warms Hinata's heart. She's glad that they want to show such respect, even towards people who were trying to kill them. She briefly laments over Haku's apparent death, although she doesn't see the body. Kakashi is much of the same mind. She shouldn't have to see what her comrades were willing to do in wake of her apparent death. It may just drive her into guilt, into heartbreak. There's no need for that. Not yet, at least. She should be made aware of what the boys are capable of eventually, but it'll be their decision. He trusts them. He trusts his team. He trusts them as comrades, as fellow shinobi, so he knows they'll be able to handle themselves. But he does worry that Sasuke had awakened such eyes, that Naruto was so willing to dive so deep into the Kyuubi's chakra. Yes. Maybe they shouldn't be put into the exams, but it may also be just what they need to break them out of these habits. He'll definitely have to contemplate as they return home to Konoha. The bridge is not going to be named the Great Naruto Bridge. It is instead going to be named the Honorable Demon Bridge, in regards to not only the demon who initially attacked it, but the two demons who were willing to defend this poor village from the monsters like Gato. It definitely confuses Hinata. She's not exactly sure what to think of the name, especially if it's in reference to her two teammates, and she even brings this up to Tazuna. He asks her if they have anything else in mind. Naruto and Sasuke, who definitely don't want to be remembered as even if they are honorable, they don't want to be remembered as demons. So they instead to name it the Ice Angel Bridge. This gets them all to turn towards him in confusion, but Sasuke backs him up. Yeah, probably something like the Fallen Snow Bridge, or the Fallen Snow Angel. And Tazuna says, not exactly what he'd go for, but if it's what they want, then fine. He gazes at them with some understanding. He knows that they don't want to be remembered for what they did. So he says, alright, I'll bring it up with the rest of the villagers. When Hinata questions them, Sasuke is quick to brush it off as a reference to Haku. With his overall looks, with the way that he looked, the way he, or they didn't even get a proper look at his face, but he says that he just references it to his jutsu. And Naruto is quick to throw in, yeah, and you were out for quite a while, like a fallen angel in the snow. Yeah. He mutters this to himself with a small blush on his face. Sasuke smirks at this. He's like, yeah, what Naruto said. Definitely, 100%. He got it right. He begins to eat his food smugly, as Naruto himself isn't exactly sure whether he should retort or try to clarify further. Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi are definitely smirking as Naruto continues to put his foot in his mouth. He's not exactly sure how he should clarify it, but Hinata has a bright smile with a small blush across her face, and she says, "Oh, okay, that's good. That's good to know." And yeah, definitely gonna be a little bit awkward, but Naruto and Sasuke end up burying Zabuza and Haku. They encourage Hinata to stay behind and rest with Kakashi, and Kakashi backs them up. He says that the boys can handle it. She briefly asks if this is because she's a girl, but they clarify that it's because she was literally near death. She still needs to recover. She relents, she understands, fine. But they shouldn't have to carry the burden all on their own. This gets the two boys to wince. They feel that they should, for what they did, but they're not sure if they want to tell Hinata just yet. They end up burying the two, and Naruto and Sasuke place down the executioner's blade as a gravestone. They end up returning to Tazuna's house, and they talk things over with Kakashi as Hinata rests for the night. They ask if they should tell her, and he says that it's entirely up to them. He does caution that it may cause her to feel guilt, but if they trust each other as team members, as comrades, as family, they should tell her. The fact that they were willing to go so far for her in wake of her apparent death, he feels that they should. It's better to not leave anything unsaid. What is left unsaid is that he clearly had things that he wanted to say to his teammates that he never got the chance to. He looks off to the side as he says this, and Naruto and Sasuke get the message all clear. In the morning, early, they take Hinata out to the clearing where they were training. She's practically recovered, enough that they'll be able to make their journey back to Konoha. And they clarify. They tell her what happened in the wake of her seeming death, and how far they went, what they were willing to do, and what happened. Sasuke ends up showing off his Mangekyo Sharingan. He mentions how Kakashi had told him that he'd be able to help him master the ability. Apparently he had it himself, but that it came with risks. He'd be learning a bit about it, but nothing too much. Apparently it would cause permanent blindness if he went too far with training the abilities that they granted him. So he'd be teaching him other techniques and jutsus to close the gap and to cover that such a disadvantage so that he wouldn't need it. He also briefly mentions that his brother had these eyes. And it's just another reason he doesn't want to use them. He doesn't clarify beyond that, and Naruto decides he should open up. He tells the two of them that he used that power, the same power that he used against Kakashi in their training mission, and the power he discovered he had when he was confronted by Mizuki. Sasuke's confused, and Naruto then clarifies what actually happened with Mizuki and how he was tricked and manipulated by him. And he gets to the part where Mizuki revealed a very dangerous secret. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't tell them, but he trusts them. They're his friends, his family. He takes a deep breath, he pulls up his shirt. They're both confused. Hinata might have for a brief second, a little bit of a blush. Just a little bit of pink dusting her cheeks. But he channels his chakra, and a seal forms on his stomach. The two of them unknowingly and subconsciously activate their dojutsus, and they can see it, what they saw before, what they were never really focusing on due to the heat of the battle. That not little, that deep, very powerful, and very large source of chakra that's colored red or orange. It's deep, it's dark, and it's very, very dangerous. They look at him with confusion written on their faces, and he clarifies. He tells them about the Nine Tails, how it was sealed into him on the night of his birth, the night of the Kyuubi attack, October 10th, and how it was sealed into him by the Yondaime Hokage, by the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato. And he tells them that he's the Jinchuriki, the human sacrifice meant to hold it back. He holds the Nine Tails that brought destruction to Konoha all those years ago. They're silent at this, but Sasuke ends up asking, "So what?" Naruto's confused. The hell is he talking about, so what? He has the nine-tailed demon fox that nearly destroyed the village in his belly. What does he mean, so what? And he tells him, yeah, so what? You're still Naruto. You're still the knucklehead that came in at dead last, despite how powerful you were. Really don't get how the academy works sometimes. How did you even fail 3 times? Before Naruto can answer, Hinata clarifies with a much more gentler tone and a bit of an admonishing look towards Sasuke, that at the end of the day, holding the Nine Tails doesn't change the fact that he's Naruto Uzumaki, the #1 knucklehead unpredictable ninja, and the one who's going to become Hokage someday. Most likely the greatest Hokage. She meant what she said back on the bridge. She really does think he'll be able to change the world. Beyond that, she's more than willing to stand by his side. Nine Tails or no Nine Tails, Demon Fox or with or without it, he'll always be Naruto to her. He tears up at that, thanks to both of them, giving them both a big hug. Sasuke does allow it to happen, but he grumbles to himself as it happens. Of course, this isn't truly sincere. He actually appreciates it. He hadn't felt this kind of warmth in a family in a very long time. Hinata herself definitely blushes, but she appreciates it and returns it, and encourages Sasuke to do the same, which he does so begrudgingly. Kakashi himself has been watching this entire time. He's glad that his team has come together in such a way, as a proper family, in a way that his, sadly, just didn't have the opportunity to. Most likely because of his own selfishness, his own arrogance, his unwillingness to allow himself to be hurt again. But it's good that he was able to right his sins by preventing them from happening a second time. Eventually, they do end up returning to Konoha, and Kakashi does deliver his report to the Sandaime Hokage, to the third Hokage. He worries over the state of the two boys, and possibly even Hinata's going forward, and questions Kakashi if he really does want to put them forward into the Chunin exams that's coming up. He tells them that he has faith in them. He knows they'll be able to pull themselves together. And beyond that, he'll be there for them. He won't be leaving them in the darkness and alone. He won't allow them to suffer in silence. That's why he wants to schedule some mind reading exams for some mind healing, some therapy with the Inoichi. Hiruzen does comply. He says that it's good. He actually had that in mind, and he would have done it either way. But he's glad that Kakashi wants to take the initiative. He asks him if he's going to be upping his own training for the sake of his students, and he says that yes, he thinks it's about time he gets back into shape. It's been a while since his Zanbu days. He can't even believe he's allowed himself to get so rusty. In his prime, Zabuza would have been a joke. Maybe not a joke, but he definitely would not have been so exhausted. He used to be able to keep his Sharingan active for hours, days if needed. But the fact that I was able to wipe him out after a battle, Sensei would definitely be scolding him. And Kushina, well, she'd be Kushina. She'd be upset that her baby boy got hurt. The two of them have a brief chuckle at this before Hiruzen solidifies his gaze. He says that he's not exactly sure how Itachi will react to all of this news. Or, no, wait, Kakashi didn't know about Itachi, never mind. He says that they need to keep an eye out. He has no idea he's heard some whispers from Jiraiya. Luckily, he's going to be stopping by soon. Perhaps he'll be able to assist in training Naruto. Allow him to focus a bit more on Sasuke and Hinata. He says not to worry. He has someone scheduled for Hinata. And he does have an idea on what to give Naruto for now. Until Jiraiya ends up arriving. But for now, it's about time that he gets to practicing and training, not only for himself but for his team. He needs to get them ready for the exams. He ends up leaving, and yeah, that's where we're going to end it. So, Sasuke has awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan much earlier, as he had not only hit full maturity with his Sharingan during the battle against Haku, but seeing Hinata seemingly die in front of him, as he was powerless to stop it, ended up triggering the activation for his Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto has revealed his secret of being the Nine-Tailed Shinchuriki to his team. Kakashi is going to be training his team for the upcoming Chunin exams, and Hinata has just survived a near-death experience. She's not going to be brushing it off with absolute ease, but she is going to be ready for the Chunin exams. She's going to be training with a very certain someone who's well practiced in poisons and senbon. And Naruto himself has he's starting to make use of wind style just that little bit earlier, and it's even influenced his fighting style in using the Kyuubi's chakra. So we'll see how this changes things going forward. Like, comment, subscribe if you like what you're seeing. In your comments, leave your critiques of this new series of mine, potential ideas for what ifs going forward, and what exactly you liked about this series, this current episode, part, whatever. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't, what you think could be better, and what you think is doing pretty good, what you think shouldn't be there, what you think should, what kind of what ifs we should be doing in the future, and if you're going to be an ass, don't even bother. Find something else to do that doesn't come at the expense of others, that you properly enjoy. So, yeah, that'll be it, and bye-bye.